Hi, this is Tina Reiber, and I'm here today with Matthew and Cyndi Smith. They took a trip to China a few years ago as part of the OneSight organization, and I wanted them to share some stories with us. So thanks for being here. Let me ask you, and just feel free to jump in, either one of you. You both had some pretty great expectations for what it was going to be like. Did you find that was realized?
We had an eye doctor flying in from South Africa. We had our team on the ground. Luxottica had sent all of this equipment into China. They had other personnel that were coming from South China and Hong Kong up to help us in Beijing. And all of a sudden we found out that we were not going to have anybody there.
So all this preparation, all this planning, all this groundwork, at first it seems like your thought was that was for nothing.
Correct.
This could all fall apart.
And literally the day before, we found this out the day before we were going to start the Gift of Sight program. And we were going to run the program for 2 days. So the day before we find out that everything has been vetoed. None of the kids are going to be allowed to come. So we prayed over it first, and we put out flyers in what are called the hutongs, which are the villages surrounding Langfang, outside of Beijing, where the orphanage is. And we spread the word that people in need, this is a program that we're going to be doing. The morning of the program, we gathered and prayed. And we said, God, let your will be done. Now the goal, when we were back in the States, was to maybe have 200 children go through the Gift of Sight program. We thought if we could do 200, then we would have a tremendous impact. We left that room, went downstairs, and we had to lock the gates because we had hundreds, if not thousands, of people lined up at the gate for eye exams.
Wow.
And literally, we were trying to communicate to them that we would get everybody in.
Right.
And it was just truly overwhelming to see the need of these people and how God answered that prayer. And I forget the exact number. For a long time, I had it emblazoned in my head. But by the time that we finally ended the line the next day, we had done well over 1,000 eye exams. So
you asked for 200.
We were
hoping for 200 and praying, and far beyond.
Absolutely. It would truly.
At one point, they were trying to breach the walls on the other side of the compound.
But in my time on this earth, that is truly a miracle that I observed with my own eyes and was able to see and participate in.
What a faith-affirming moment.
It was incredible.
Probably for the whole team, I guess.
It was.
Wow. Were there ever, and it sounds like you had, groups and masses of people. Did you ever have the opportunity to connect with individuals on your trip in any way? What was that like?
Well, we were administering the exams, one by one. We had different stations set up where all of us were doing the exams. And just by working with them, you would, it was a very hands-on with the people, and so you were right with them, and it couldn't really converse in Chinese, obviously, but when they would be fitted with the glasses, I will always remember there was this one, she had to be a grandmother in her 70s, and like for the first time in her life, she could see. And this grandma, she's jumping up and down. I mean, it was just pure joy.
Right.
She could finally see.
Right. Something we take for granted.
Something we take for granted.
Seeing it through the eyes of the media or somebody else who'd been there. Right. Not the dignitaries, not, those representatives.
All that stuff stripped away, just the people with their worn out shoes and, their roughened hands from hard work.
When you talk about communication, we didn't speak any Chinese.
Right.
But I think we put too much focus on communication being the spoken word.
Exactly.
Because a smile, a touch, a twinkle in the eye.
That transcends language.
That is communication.
Absolutely.
And on that level, we had the most beautiful communication with the Chinese people. Whether they were the little kids coming through, or whether they were the grandmothers, the elderly men, there was absolutely a bond through the Vision of Sight program that we were able to establish with people that we couldn't talk to.
Right.
But they knew that they were cared about, that they were loved, and that we were there to help them.
Did you find they were very open to you? Was there hesitancy and fear, or was there more excitement and eagerness? How did they come across, or maybe it varied a lot?
Oh, I would say exuberance. You know, as Cyndi said, we at one point, we had crowd control at the gates. We were letting people through the gates, and all of a sudden we saw running across the rear yard of the orphanage, people running to get in line because they'd come through a back fence. I mean, that's how excited they were for this program and the opportunity to participate in it.
Wow. So you talk to somebody who is contemplating going on a trip like this. Would you encourage their participation? What would you say?
Absolutely, just go for it. Just go for it.
If you want to change your life, if you want to truly see why God created us and why He put us on this earth, to love one another, to care for one another, and to serve for one another, there's absolutely no better program to open your own eyes to what you can truly do in this world and have an impact than to participate in one of these programs.
So they get 20/20 vision, and we get a whole different kind of vision by going over and interacting with those folks. It sounds that way.
Could not recommend it more.
Anything else that you remember from your trip that you think is just really poignant that you'd like to share before we close?
Yes. I found it very interesting, the Chinese team that Lutzautica brought in. They were very anxious to learn from us, but they were also very anxious to take ownership of it, because they were going to take ownership and then take it throughout the country.
Really?
Yes. And I thought that was really cool. They really wanted that to be their program.
That's great. So does that mean that they were then equipped to do those kind of exams and that kind of work?
That was my understanding, is that they were going to take this and then go to other parts of the country and do the same thing.
Wow, okay. I didn't realize that. That's
But
great.
they were very, very excited about that.
To be equipped in that way and able to care for their own people. Well, thank you so much for your time and your stories. I really appreciate it. I think I'm ready to update my passport and get on a plane myself.
We would encourage it highly.
It sounds like you would. Thank you
Thank you,
very much. Really appreciate it.